Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Hong Konger on the home side, half Taiwanese on the away side, and both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before, albeit the Hong Kong brewery quite a bit more than the Taiwanese one. Although that said, I do need to go back and review more stuff from the Taiwanese brewery when I come across it. But both of these breweries are very well respected in their respective areas, and they both do some very interesting stuff. The home brewery, I would say, are best known for their different kinds of lager beers, but they do a whole variety of different things, whereas the Taiwanese brewery are better known for doing a lot of kind of really interesting adjuncty beers, and then they also do cocktails and stuff like this too. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is another member of a series that we've been working our way through from the Hong Kong brewery. It's a style that I very much enjoy, and one that has been enjoying a little bit of a resurgence in popularity in recent times. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, for the home side of things, we are going to head to a little place called Wong Chuk, which you'll find on the southern part of Hong Kong Island here in the Hong Kong SAR. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Young Master Brewery. So this particular beer is a collaborative IPA number 4. It comes in at 7% ABV, and it's a West Coast IPA. This one has been brewed in collaboration with Taihu Brewing, who are from the Xizhi area of Taipei, if I've pronounced that correctly, probably not. But yeah, they, as I say, are a very interesting brewery, and we've reviewed one or two of their beers on the channel over the years, but it's been quite a while actually since they've featured on the channel. I think we tried one of their own beers and then one that was in collaboration with one of the Japanese breweries. But yeah, interesting brewery, and one that I do hope to go and visit at some point. I need to get back to Taiwan and visit my friend over there, so that's something that's on the cards for the fairly near future. But yeah, 7% IPA, this one part of Young Master's collaborative series, and we've still got another couple of cans to work our way through from this series as well, so keep your eyes peeled for those reviews. They'll appear over the next wee while. But let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved in this one before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Young Master, and another link for the ones that I've done from Taihu Brewing before. We will add more to those lists at some point in the near future. Probably the Young Master one will get added to before Taihu, but we'll see about making some more Taihu editions. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist and also the Taiwanese playlist, because it has a little bit of a kind of dual nationality or whatever. But yeah, check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things these days. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Young Master Brewery. So Young Master, of course, being the home one in this case, which is why we go first for them. Young Master was founded back in 2013 by Rohit Dugar, who is originally from New Delhi in India, but he moved from New York to Hong Kong back in 2011, and he was working for Goldman Sachs, and after a while he decided to quit and found his own microbrewery. But he was joined at the brewery by the German brewer Ulrich Altbauer, who had quite an extensive history of brewing in mainland China, and he was the master brewer, but sadly he died in 2016. But his kind of legacy on the brewery, or his effect on the brewery, has not been forgotten. These guys are very good when it comes to German style lager beers. But the current brew team is Edwin and Brian, and they've both worked for the brewery for a good number of years. There's a few other guys working in there as well, from what I understand, because it is a pretty big operation. But the first brewery that they had was in Ap Lei Chau, which is a little island off the south coast of Hong Kong Island, and this facility had a 10 hectolitre hectolitre brewhouse, and this acted as their main production until mid-2016. So they opened up a new brewery in Wong, Chuk with a 40 hectolitre brewhouse from GA in Germany, as well as having a larger barrel aging area and a fodder for producing sour beers as well. And these guys were the first ones in Asia, anywhere, to have a sort of European style fodder actually. So these guys are kind of pioneers in the wild ale field here in Asia actually, but apparently they're producing in the region of 15,000 litres of beer per month, but I wouldn't be surprised if that number is too low. These guys have been producing a hell of a lot, but they've got several tap rooms and restaurants these days, which include TAP in Mongkok. There used to be a second TAP up in Shunwan, but that has now closed down. They've got Second Draft in Victoria Park, which is probably my favourite one of their venues. I do recommend you go and check that out. They've got Pub 1842, which is in Central, and then they've also got, until recently, they had Alvy's over in Kennedy Town, which was a lovely pizza restaurant. I was sad about that. And they do have the Guild in Tanjong Pagar in Singapore as well, which is quite nice. It's got a really interesting bar design and things, like a circular bar and stuff, which is quite expensive to do, I have to say. But today these guys are the largest by volume craft brewery in Hong Kong, and they're also the most decorated of the craft breweries as well. But as of April 2024, these guys have produced 270 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and they now employ in the region of 20 different people. So yeah, quite an impressive company that have grown a lot over the last few years, and the people that I've met from Young Master have always been very, very nice. So yeah, if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I highly recommend that you do. But I do love their lagers in particular, I have to say. Yeah, they've got some great stuff there. The Märzen, the Oktoberfest Märzen, is a very nice one, but of course that only comes once a year. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Young Master Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different stuff that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go to Taiwan then and talk about Taihu Brewing. So Taihu Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Taipei, and this company was founded back in 2013 by a group of 5 craft beer loving friends. So 3 of the founders are Taiwanese American. This is Duke Wu, Peter Huang and Rob Babbage, and all 5 of these guys apparently met at school, and they were big fans of craft beer and saw the trend starting to take off in Asia, and they wanted to be a part of that and to start it off in Taiwan. So for a long time, the Taiwanese beer market was dominated by Taiwan Beer, which is a kind of state-owned monopoly, but the alcohol industry started to open up to the public in 2002 after Taiwan joined the World Trade Organization, and apparently it's also prohibited for a brewery, or at least it was prohibited in Taiwan for a brewery to open up in what is called a non-commercial space. So most of the breweries have the problem of being located quite far away from populations, basically. So yeah, that was a bit of a sticking point for a number of them. But the head brewer of Taihu is Winnie Su Jo Wei, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, fingers crossed. But she came from a background in studying agriculture and economics, and she actually worked as a bartender at Gordon Biersch, an American chain restaurant in Taipei, which in 2007 sent her over to the US to study brewing with the idea that she would brew the beers for the company. But after 4 years, Winnie left the job in 2011 to study for her International Brewer Certificate in Berlin, where she befriended Lan Xinfu, who was sponsored by Le Blé d'Or, one of the other brew pubs in Taipei, which I have visited before actually. Really nice honey beer. But after this, she went on to be the head of operations and R&D for Gordon Biersch, and she spent 2 years in this role, but apparently she didn't really like being involved in the business side of the company all that much, and she wanted to get back to brewing again. So she went over to the US and worked over there for a little while before later returning to Taiwan. But upon her return to Taiwan, she met the partners of Taihu, having been aware of their plans to start a microbrewery, and they invited her to come on board, and she joined the company in May of 2015. But today she runs a brew team of about 14 people, 10 of whom are women. and they have their main brewery in the Xizhi area, again pronunciation, of Taipei. But they opened their first bar, which is called Chuyoshi, in the eastern district of Taipei. They apparently didn't signpost the tap room and made sure it had no English notifications so that it would entice local customers, and they had great success with this actually, and they've really helped spread the word about craft beer across Taiwan. That initially they only served international craft beers, but then they started selling their own stuff around 2015. As of April 2024 though, these guys have grown a hell of a lot. Their distribution has grown a lot as well. You can find a couple of the things over here in Hong Kong, of course, and further afield. But as of April 2024, they've produced 410 different varieties of beer according to Untappd, and they've got a few different tap rooms and restaurants around Taiwan. So you've got the Chou Yinxie, which I think that means like tap room or drinking space or something like that. So you've got the Chou Yinxie Dan, the Taihu Airstream, Chou Yinxie Landmark, Bodega, Driftwood, and the Jew Dumpling House. These are all in Taipei, while a little bit further south in Taichung they have the Chou Yinxie Taichung and the Med Cocktail Bar. So yeah, they did have another one which was called the Brew Lab, and I think that was where they were doing all their small batch beers and stuff like that, but that seems to have closed as far as I can tell from Google Maps. The Taihu website is a little bit hard to navigate, but the name Taihu apparently comes in two parts. So you've got Tai being for Taiwan. A lot of the cities in Taiwan of course have that, but there's Hu as well, which means tiger. So basically it's like Taiwanese tiger, the name of this brewery, and that's the symbol of the brewery under a canopy of hops. But yeah, I believe that's everything I can really tell you about Taihu Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that Taihu have done. But they've done some really interesting stuff. They do cocktails, kind of fruited sours, and they do some kind of more regular beers as well. They're a very quirky brewery actually, Taihu, when you look at all the stuff that's listed on the website there. But yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So like I mentioned to you, this one is another member of the Young Master Collaborative IPA series, number 4. But the second one that's appearing here on the channel, you can see the two brewery symbols at the top of that there. There's Young Master, and there is the Taihu Tiger, which looks very, very nice. Little 330 milliliter can, this one. I paid 24 Hong Kong dollars for this one at Circle K. This was a Circle K release, of course. But yeah, it says on the side here, our 4th release in our series of collaborative IPAs with partners Taihu, one of the most beloved breweries hailing from Taiwan. The vintage West Coast IPA radiates vibrant tropical, citrusy and resinous characters synonymous with Pacific Northwest hops. The finish is clean and dry with a balanced hop bitterness that lingers flirtatiously on your palate. So yeah, should be quite nice, this one. As I said earlier, this one comes in at 7% ABV. You've seen the artwork on this, it's pretty nice, I have to say. I do like that. You can see the pants up there, the one of the symbols of Young Master, of course. But yeah, let's just get this guy out into the glass and see how we go. A little bit of a longer history section on this video. 1, because I'm tired, and 2, because it is just longer. But yeah, let's do this. There we go. Oh, this one's a little bit active. Let's get this guy out and into the glass. There we go. So anyway, as you can see, before the head disappears, you can see that this beer's poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, but it's quite bumpy head on this one. It looks pretty damn nice actually. But yeah, you can see the colour of this beer is really nice too. This one's a kind of brighter amber colour. Looks very, very good. Little bit of a natural haze to it as well, which is quite interesting. I guess this one's maybe not been filtered, but 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the surface of the beer there, and that head is just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer, but you've got that nice kind of thicker ring around the edge of the glass there. But you know, overall it does look very, very nice, this one. yeah, pretty much what you'd expect from a West Coast IPA, to be honest with you. So for me, the West Coast IPA can lean two ways. It can be a bit more bready and biscuity, for example, or it can be a little bit more sort of oily and caramelly. Those are the two ends of the spectrum, I would say. Just going from the colour of this one, I suspect it's going to be a little bit more sort of bready and biscuity. It's not going to be the sweetest and maltiest of West Coast IPA. But yeah, it certainly looks the part. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjunct you put into the beer will affect its colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to IPAs. It's not that common to add adjuncts into them. But yeah, all in all, looks the part of a West Coast IPA. Let's go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one and see what it's all about. Really curious about this beer. So let's do this. Yeah, aroma-wise, it's pretty much delivering on everything that you would expect of the style. Yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of kind of bready character in this one. You've got sweeter malt notes in there, a big kind of, not the biggest, deepest, dankest hoppy character, but certainly you've got all of that, and you've got that nice kind of oily, fruity note out of this one. These are all characteristics that you would expect of the West Coast IPA. So it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. It is pretty damn authentic. But let's break the aroma down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of this beer is a lovely sort of fresh white bready bread crust. You can absolutely smell that in there. There's a little bit of woodiness as well, so yeah, lovely little bit of a woody character, a little bit of cracker as well, but those elements are quite minimal, I would say. Good little bit of kind of sweet wholemeal brown bready character in this one. You can kind of tell, I'm pretty sure it's European malts in this one, knowing Young Master Brewery, of course. I'm pretty sure it will be sort of crystal malt and things that's in this one. But yeah, it's got that lovely little bit of sweeter brown bread in there, soft white bread as well, but quite dense actually. I do like how these notes, the notes in this one kind of go together. But yeah, bread crust, bit of cracker, bit of wood, brown bread, white bread, and then you start to get the kind of brown sugary notes out of this beer. So yeah, for me, the brown sugary side of things in this one, it's quite nice. I mean, there's a little touch of like toasty caramel in this one. So yeah, a little bit of toasty caramel, a little bit of a more sweet caramel in the middle of the nose, and then you've also got a wee bit of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing going on with this one too. So one of the things to remember about West Coast IPAs is that they use pretty much all barley malt in comparison to the New Englands, which use mostly barley malt, but a good bit of wheat and a good bit of oat as well, and that's what gives them their haziness. It's not unheard of to use a wee bit of wheat or oat in certain West Coast IPAs. I think they use a little bit of wheat in, for example, the School Pin from Ballast Point. That had a wee bit of wheat in it, I'm sure. But yeah, mainly barley malt is what you use in a West Coast IPA. But the hopping is another thing that is interesting about West Coast IPAs. So when you make an IPA, you have three types of hopping. Early edition hopping, which gives you mostly bitterness, and that takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, and it gives you a very deep, dank aroma. You've got late edition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you a good little bit of flavour and aroma, but also a wee bit of bitterness, and it gives you a very bright green component in terms of flavour and aroma. Then you have dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That's all about flavour and aroma, and again, it gives you a very bright green component. So yeah, the way all of that pieces together, I think is quite interesting when it comes to IPAs, because the West Coast IPA uses all three types of hopping, which is why they're deeper and danker, whereas New England IPAs rely on late edition and dry hopping mainly, and you can smell a bit of that depth and dankness in this particular one, and that's what I miss about the West Coast IPAs, is the kind of big bitter notes. So yeah, with this beer, the green component is quite interesting because you do get a wee bit of earthiness out of it for sure, but you also get that little bit of herbal character too, some nice, quite bright floral aromaticity, to be honest with you. and it's also got a little bit of a more zesty, kind of grassy character coming out of it too. The green component in this one's quite nice actually. But yeah, we do have to remember this beer. I think I'm reviewing this one when it's about 2 months old or something like that. So it's coming toward the end of its like best period, I would say. Ended up with too much beer and my fridge broke and stuff like this. So yeah, it took me a bit long to get to start reviewing beer here in Hong Kong, but it happens, you know. But yeah, the green component of this one's pretty nice. On the fruity side of the beer, I find this one to be quite orangey. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There's something telling me there might be a bit of mosaic or Amarillo in this, because it's got a big oily, zesty, orangey character to it, but it could be a little bit of a lighter tangerine. Behind that, I'm getting a bit of like passion fruit and apricot, maybe a bit of pineapple, something like that. So I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of a tropical hop in this. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Simcoe and Amarillo or Simcoe and Mosaic. It's something like that. There is something quite familiar about the fruity side of this beer, I would say. So yeah, the way the aroma goes together in this one, I think, is pretty damn nice. So yeah, it's good. As I always say, take a bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we taste this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is Collaborative IPA number 4 from Young Master Brewery in Wong Chuk here in Hong Kong, brewed in collaboration with Taihu Brewing from the Xizhi area in Taipei over in Taiwan. Let's get stuck into this. A 7% West Coast IPA. Slàinte, skål, cheers, ganbei. Oh yeah, that's pretty nice. First impression, quite oily, quite slick, but still quite drinkable. West Coast IPA. I like that about this one. Yeah. So for me, that's really nice. It's really nicely done. It's yeah, it's giving you everything you want from the style. You've got a lovely bit of sweetness and smoothness in the malt base, good little green component to it, and you've also got that nice kind of oily bubble as well. So that little oily bubble of fruit actually, and it is quite an orangey leaning West Coast IPA for me, but there's a wee bit of tropical character in there too. So yeah, I like how that kind of pieces together actually. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure, but thumbs up to both breweries. I think it's another pretty damn solid beer. One of the things I like about Young Master is they always have very flavourful beers, but they do have a slightly lighter mouthfeel, probably because of the climate here in Hong Kong, but they've always got this element of drinkability to them, and you can feel that in this beer, and you feel that in their kind of core range, like the 1842 and the lagers and stuff. But this is good. This is good. So let's break this beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. We'll go to the middle third of the palate then to start off with, as we always do. So yeah, this beer gets sweeter and sweeter the more that you drink of it as well. But yeah, middle third of your palate then, you can feel the backbone of this beer is a lovely kind of smooth, fresh, white bready sort of hedgehog bread crust. That's absolutely the the backbone of this beer. So for me, as you go further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woodiness out of the beer. I often get that toward the front of that middle third of your palate, and you can feel that above the bread crust there's just a little bit of a sort of crackery layer coming out of this one. So yeah, bread crust, a little bit of wood, and a wee bit of a crackery note. And above that, you've got a wee bit of a more kind of, fresh wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really, really nice. I'm pretty sure it is German malt in this one, just going, because it has a bit of sweetness and smoothness to it, but it's also got that wee bit of dryness. You know, the German crystal malts have a wee bit of dryness to them compared to the more oily, sweet nature of American Turo. But yeah, you've got the brown bready layer, you've got a white bready layer above that, and then you start to get the kind of sweeter aspects of the malt base in this one. So yeah, you've got a layer of like a slightly toasty caramel in the base, but not too dry and too aggressively toasty. So yeah, a little bit of a toasty note in there. Then you've got a layer of like a McVitie's digestive biscuit. And as you move toward the centre of your palate, you can feel there's a little oily circle. So on the edge, it has a little bit of this like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. And in the dead centre of your palate, it's got a wee bit of a more kind of straight up sort of caramelly note to it, this one. So yeah, the way that all pieces together, I think, is really, really nice. But definitely, yeah, as I said earlier, this is more of a kind of bready, biscuity leaning West Coast IPA. It's not the kind of most oily and caramelly of this particular style category that you're going to come across, but still very nice. That's not criticism, that's just an observation. Yeah, that's the middle third of the palate covered in this one. Let's go to the back third of the palate. Remember, generally speaking, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. And the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel there's a wee touch of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready character in the base, the white bready character on top. But then the base of that back third of your palate, you have more of, you've got the dry bread crusty notes coming out of this one. So yeah, you can feel that in there. There's a wee bit of Jacob's cream cracker as well. And as you go above that, a more fluffy wholemeal brown bready character, which feels feels a little bit lighter and more airy than it does in the middle third of the palate. Then you've got the white bready layer sitting above that, which again feels a little bit lighter and more airy. And then you can feel some of the kind of more toasty, biscuity notes just creeping over the top of that on this one, which I think is really very, very nice. On top of that, you start to get the yeasty character from the beer. So let's have a wee look at that yeasty side of things. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me is kind of what you'd expect, and it's quite similar to other West Coast IPAs I've had from Young Master before. So at the centre of that, you've got this sweet kind of wholemeal brown bready character. Around it, you've got like a little bit more of a kind of grainy white bready note, and then a bread crusty edge to it. And as I say, all of that sits at the back of the tongue on top of that back third of the palate. So yeah, definitely you can feel the flavour of this beer is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way everything sort of pieces together in this beer, I think, is very, very nice. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. I do like how all of that goes together in this one. But yeah, I think we've covered the malty and yeasty side of this beer at this point, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's go on to the hoppy side of things then, green component. This beer, I don't find it to be overly bitter, to be honest with you. This one strikes me as being a little bit more, it has got a wee bit of bitterness to it, but it's not, a big, I'm pretty sure this is not a big sort of 80, 90 IBU beer as the style was back when I was getting into craft beer. It just has a little bit of that. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's got a little touch of a herbal character. Then as you push further forward toward the kind of front corners of your tongue, a little bit more floral aromaticity and a wee bit of a more oily and slightly zesty, grassy character around the front curve of the tongue. So yeah, green component in this one is quite smooth actually. And yeah, we are drinking this beer when it's about 2 months old or something like that. But yeah, you probably would get a little bit more hoppiness out of it when it was really, really fresh, but still in good condition. West Coast IPAs can last a little bit, but you want to drink them within, about 3 months or so of being canned for sure. But yeah, let's look at the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a bready build up in there, brown bread in the base, white bread on top. Then the base of that front third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of that fresh white bready bread crust in there again. On top of that, you get the cracker, you get the brown bread, the white bread, and then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at that. Yeah, the fruity side of this beer is kind of what I expected, to be honest with you. I'm curious, I'd be really curious to see what hops are in this one. I do want to say maybe Citron Mosaic or Citron Amarillo or even Simcoe. I think there's one tropical hop in this and one more orangey leaning hop. At the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a little bit of an almost like peachy note out of this one. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's grapefruit, but as you move further forward from that, there's a wee bit of there's a little bit of a more, I would say, there's a little bit of a more kind of passion fruity note comes out of it. Certainly as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got a lighter, more apricot-y note underneath. There's a wee bit of like an almost pineapple-y note sitting on top of that. And then as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's more about the orange. There's a wee bit of a more, you get more of a kind of tangerine orange and like an oily, zesty kind of orange as well. So I want to say, I think Mosaic. I think there's a wee bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. That makes me think Mosaic. I'm pretty sure Mosaic is one of the hops that's in this, just from the way the orange is, because it's a bit of that lighter kind of tangerine sort of thing rather than being big and oily and zesty as you get from Amarillo. So yeah, I think that's what's going on in this one. I can see this being a bit of Simcoe and being a bit of Mosaic, or potentially a wee bit of Citra, something like that. So yeah, I think passion fruit, little bit of peach, little bit of mango, bit of pineapple, and then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's a little bit more, it's a wee bit more of a kind of tangerine orangey sort of thing. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that regard, I think is pretty damn nice. So gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. I think we can leave it at that for the flavour, to be honest with you. This is, bready, biscuity, floral, and kind of more orangey leaning West Coast IPA. I think that's a good, very quick summary of it. But let's round off the review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer is a little bit more kind of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. Mid-bodied, carbonation is quite smooth. It's got quite a cleanliness to it, this beer. So yeah, you've got a lovely sort of cleanliness to it, slight oily character, and the way all of that goes together, I think, is it's really quite nice. A little bit of slickness in there too. But yeah, in terms of the IBU count in this beer, I will say the bitterness does build a wee bit the more you drink of this one. 50 or 60 IBUs potentially. Something like that. I'd be surprised if it was more, but I have been proved wrong with that in the past. But yeah, the malt base, a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a bit of slight sweetness on top. And then you've got that nice oily fruity character, which, like I say, leans more toward the kind of orangey sort of thing. So the way all of that pieces together is quite interesting. So yeah, another very solid West Coast IPA from the guys at Young Master, and definitely cool to feature another Taihu Brewing beer for you here on the channel as well. And we'll need to look at getting some more stuff from them in the near future. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was Collaborative IPA number 4 from Young Master in Chuk here in Hong Kong, in collaboration with Taihu from Xizhi over in Taipei in Taiwan. Really interesting beer, this one, and the next one in the series of collaborative beers will be coming up on the channel shortly. But thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out these breweries' social media, and I will see you guys in the next one. A bit tired filming this, so it was a bit longer, but ciao just now. Slàinte, skål, cheers.